So yeah, I never wanted to homeschool either. In fact, I specifically prayed that God would never call me to homeschool. Now we were official homeschoolers of 2 kids. In our minds as parents, we figured we would homeschool up to the middle school years and then send them off to school. And here they come back home again for high school. I was like, what? So I did a video on how I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. But after giving my life to Jesus, that's exactly what he led me to do. And it was one of the best decisions of my life to leave a career as an attorney to be home with my 2 kids. I mentioned that we homeschooled, and I got a lot of requests to do a video on that journey, and it was quite a journey. But just like the other video, this is about way more than homeschooling. If you know God is calling you to do something that is way beyond you, this video is for you. If you feel God is calling you to something that requires dying to self, sacrifice, this is for you. If you feel that you've heard from God with respect to a course of action and your husband is opposed, this is for you. And definitely, if you are a homeschooler or thinking about homeschooling, I pray this is an encouragement to you. So yeah, I never wanted to homeschool either. In fact, I specifically prayed that God would never call me to homeschool. We had moved to Dallas after I resigned from the law firm, and I can't remember where I was, but I met a homeschool mom, a mother of 6. I had never met and talked to a homeschool mom. She started telling me how she juggles subjects and kids throughout the day, and my head was spinning. I said, oh no, the stay-at-home mom thing was more than enough. I was like, Lord, you wouldn't. Please, Lord, don't ever call me to homeschool. We were only in Dallas for 2.5 years. Bill got an opportunity to be chair of the Department of Education at Washington University in St. Louis. So we moved to St. Louis in July of 2002. The kids both have summer birthdays, so they turned 6 and 4 that summer. Our son Quentin had attended K4 and K5 at a Christian school in Dallas, and he was registered to attend 1st grade at a Christian school about a mile from our house. Our daughter Cameron was registered to attend preschool at the same school. So they were both good to go, and I was elated. It had been 3 years since I had left the practice of law, 3 years since my first book had been published, and 3 years since I thought I would jump into writing my next book. I said, Lord, thank you for teaching me to die to self. Thank you for teaching me that home is my primary ministry. And thank you that both of these kids will now be gone for some hours during the day so I can get some writing done. Everything was good, except our house had not yet sold in Dallas. We had 2 mortgages. So as August rolled around, we started realizing we really can't afford to be adding private school tuition on top of these 2 mortgages. We lived in Clayton, which is in the Wash U neighborhood, and Clayton schools are considered among the top in the state. So Bill said we've got a top grade school 2 blocks from us. It's literally a short walk. Let's just send Quentin there. But it didn't sit well with me. The Lord had started stirring again in my heart. We had started attending a new church, and the very first Sunday we visited, I met not 1, but 2 homeschool moms. And one was a black woman, which was significant because it just hit different. The whole notion of homeschooling didn't seem so foreign anymore. If you know what I mean, you know. It mattered. The Lord knows what you need. So I talked at length with both of them, and my inner reaction was entirely different than what it had been in Dallas. I wasn't saying, Lord, please don't call me to this. I was saying, Lord, are you calling us to this? Is this your will for us? I sat in the service that morning and that was all I could think about. By the time I got home, I was ready to burst. I told Bill about the conversations I had with these two moms and I said, I think we should really consider homeschooling as an option. My husband, Department of Education chair, said, homeschooling? Kim, come on, we're not doing that. He basically had the reaction I had in Dallas. If there was any area in which he had a vision for his kids, it was in the area of education. And homeschooling did not fit that vision. But how many of y'all know when the Lord is stirring, you just can't let it go? He wouldn't let me let it go. Over the next week or so, it was like one radio program after another had a feature on homeschooling. So I'm listening intently to the radio programs and then I started Googling homeschooling and a whole universe opened up. I couldn't believe there was so much out there in terms of resources. So I'm taking notes and praying for the right opportunity to bring to Bill what I'm learning because he had basically shut it down, which isn't even like Bill. He is so easygoing about most things. In the stay-at-home mom video, I told you how he didn't even object when I told him I wanted to leave 6 figures and be home with the kids. But education was his area and I knew what I was saying sounded crazy to him. Like, okay, you talked to a couple of moms, heard a radio program, and now you're ready to take over our kids' education. I'm like, yeah, to the man with a PhD in education. But that's what the Lord had downloaded into my heart. So I said, Lord, I pray that you would open up opportunities for me to share more about it. You're going to have to be the one to work in his heart. I was praying Psalm 37 back to him. Psalm 37, 4 and 5 says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him and he will do it. I said, Lord, I believe you have given this desire to homeschool our kids. I'm committing my way to you and trusting in you, and you're going to have to do it. You have to establish it. So you know the Lord had a plan of action. He moved me to propose a plan for Cameron. She had just turned 4. And I said, Bill, we really don't need to spend tuition money for her to go to preschool. Why don't we just try homeschooling just for this year and see how it goes? I really think the Lord is in this. God was moving. Bill agreed to let me keep Cam home for preschool. I know he was thinking, well, you can't do too much damage at the preschool level. But Quentin, no, he was adamant about that. He was gonna start 1st grade at that school down the street and get the foundation he needed. I was like, okay, Lord, you gonna have to do it. Quentin starts 1st grade at the school, and what is immediately apparent is that in language arts, they were just learning to read, and Quentin was already a good reader, which brought us to the Lord's next plan of action. Language arts was in the morning, so I said, Bill, his entire morning is a waste of time. I could be teaching Quentin from where he is and moving him along if I could just homeschool him in the morning. The educator in Bill could not deny that this would be beneficial for his son. But he said, will the school district allow us to do that? I knew God was at work, so I was like, watch. I went to the school district. They were surprised that anyone would want to do something like this, but they gave us permission. Quentin was now home in the mornings doing reading and other advanced language arts with his mom. Meanwhile, things were going really well with Cameron. I was teaching her how to read, and I enjoyed that time just watching her light up as she caught on. And Bill was seeing how much she was learning and thriving, not just in reading, but in other areas as well. So October rolls around, and it's the first parent-teachers conference. Usually at the parent-teachers conference, I'm the one who's got all the questions and I'm engaged with the teacher. This time, I was like, I'm just gonna be quiet and let Bill handle it. Because in my spirit, I didn't think he was gonna be there long. So I was just being prayerful. We walk into the classroom and Bill sees these math problems on the board and he gets so excited. His master's is in math and his PhD is in math education. This was his language up on the board. And this was really the main reason Quentin was still in school. He was doing language arts at home, but he was in school to get a good foundation in math. So Bill is looking at the blackboard and he says to the teacher, "I'm loving what you all are doing here. This is awesome." The teacher says, "Oh, only a handful of students are getting that. We've got some students in the class who don't have much numbers sense, so they get one curriculum. Quentin is in the strong average group. That's most of the students, and they get a different curriculum. And that on the board is a little advanced, and that's for a small few." Bill was fuming on the way to the car. He said, "I cannot believe she is tracking in the first grade. In the first grade." He went on, and then he looked at me and said, "You can bring him home." Oh, I need you to understand the praise party I had with the Lord. I said, "Lord, you are faithful. You are amazing. You made sure those math problems were on that board for Bill to see. So divinely orchestrated." That boy was home by October. Now we were official homeschoolers of 2 kids. So there's that moment when you let family and friends and whoever else know that you are homeschooling and you get the reaction. Most of our close family members, parents and whatnot, they were supportive and encouraging. But we did get comments from some people like, "Why would you do that? You're in a great school district." Or, "They let you do that?" Yeah, they are our kids. But when we did get negative comments, they didn't really bother me in the sense of causing me to second guess the decision we had made, because God was so in it that there was nothing anybody else could say. So in those grade school years, I loved that homeschooling really wasn't a typical full school day, because we could get more done in a shorter period of time. And at those ages, we could just be creative with the lessons, have fun, explore, hone in on things that they enjoyed doing. I loved this unit we did on birds. We put a bird feeder in the backyard and we would just be amazed at all these different types of birds that were suddenly flocking to our backyard that we had never seen back there, like blue jays and cardinals. And we had fun identifying the birds, and they would draw the birds. The kids loved to draw, so I would incorporate sketch pads in our lessons. But my favorite part of homeschooling was the mornings. We would play music from a kid's hymnal as we ate breakfast. And we would do scripture memorization together, which was actually fun. And then we would do Bible study, which took different forms as they got older. A big thing the Lord impressed on my heart was that homeschooling was not first and foremost about academics. It was about growing them and nurturing them in the Lord. It was about discipling them. I also loved that I could teach them in ways that fit them. Cameron loved workbooks. She loved the feeling of accomplishment she got when those pages were filled in. So she thrived on language arts programs that incorporated workbooks. With Quentin, I could teach him the lesson from a textbook and he could just look at the exercises in the textbook and write down his answers in a binder on loose leaf. They were so different and I could cater to those differences. Another favorite for me when they were younger was to do read-alouds in the afternoon, where we would just get comfortable on the sofa and I would read from a book that was beyond their current reading level and we would just enjoy it together. I didn't have any particular curriculum that I stuck with. I spent a lot of time researching and I would just use different resources for different subjects, whatever fit that kid. In our minds as parents, we figured we would homeschool up to the middle school years and then send them off to school. Side note, Cameron did go to the school up the street for 3rd grade. She had never been to school and was well aware that her brother had had that experience. And she really wanted to know what it was like. So we said, okay. She went and we assessed throughout the year whether this was a good fit. She was back home for 4th grade. So the middle school years, we did a lot of praying about what to do. We decided to send Quentin to a private Christian school for 8th grade. If you've seen a video I did some years ago about things my son taught me, you know that he has dealt with social anxiety. But let me say this, because it irritates me when people generalize and want to say that homeschooled kids are not adequately socialized. Homeschooled kids get more opportunities for socialization half the time, and not just with their same age peers, because they're out in the world doing life, involved in various programs and co-ops and whatnot. This had nothing to do with homeschooling. This was something we saw our son dealing with when he was in school. As the years went by, he was involved in church, youth group, went away to camp during the summer, all these things, but it was still something he dealt with. So we prayed and we thought this private school situation was the plan for him. He went there for 8th and 9th grade, and sort of in the middle of 9th grade, the Lord just made it clear to us, homeschool him for high school. I was like, what? Cameron went to public school for 9th grade, made the varsity volleyball squad. She had been active in sports all during her homeschool years, and we were sure that she would just graduate from there. Once again, through a series of unmistakable events, the Lord was saying homeschool her for the rest of high school as well. I had 2 high schoolers homeschooling. So where was my mind with all of this? I had an ongoing tension, struggle with homeschooling because God had opened up a writing path again. When the kids were in grade school, he dropped this story in my head and it was so strong. I couldn't let it go. And I was like, fiction, Lord? Really? I didn't know any authors, didn't know anything about writing fiction, certainly didn't have time to write fiction. But as I prayed, I knew that's what God was calling me to do. I ended up getting a contract with Thomas Nelson. So now I've got deadlines, and I had to really trust God for the time I needed to get it done, writing mostly early in the mornings. When they went off to school in that middle high school period, I'm thinking, okay, now is the season when I can focus on writing. And here they come back home again for high school. I'm like, how am I supposed to handle high school level material? I kept having to die to self, die to my own plans, die to my own inabilities, and trust God. So I was clinging to him, seeking him for each kid and what that kid needed. I discovered great online courses where they could receive live instruction and get accountability in AP, science, math, language, whatever. Quentin loved languages and took 4 years of Latin, a biblical Hebrew class, and a Greek class online in high school. Cameron concentrated in French. Bill was helping to choose the math curriculum that each kid needed. And I loved history and English, so I would teach them in those courses when they weren't doing an AP course online. I watched the Lord pull it all together and tailor academically rigorous courses for both of them. As a result, their transcripts didn't look like other high schoolers in the area that were applying to college. So their applications, transcripts, and experiences stood out. They both applied to Washington University in St. Louis, which is considered a little Ivy, very competitive. And although their dad is there, that wasn't a guarantee of anything. We had seen professors' kids get turned down. They had to take the ACT and submit their applications like everybody else. But they were both admitted to WashU, and they both received an Irvin Academic Scholarship. I was blown away. Bill, maybe even more so. Only God could get the glory. Quentin graduated last May with a degree in German, and he's currently in the master's program there. And Cameron is a junior majoring in psychological and brain sciences. Bill, my hubby who once said homeschooling, we're not doing that, now says it was the best education decision we could have made. And it was because it was God's plan for our kids. He wouldn't let us move away from it as much as we tried to at times. I am not one who says this or that method of schooling is the way to go. I would not tell you that homeschooling is the way to go. God has a different plan for each family, and sometimes a different plan within each family for each kid. But what I will tell you is to trust Him with whatever plan He has for you. Trust Him when it doesn't make sense, when it's not necessarily what you want to do, when you may be getting pushback from others, when you might be anxious, like, what? I can't homeschool high school? When you know it's Him, follow, cling, and trust. It meant I couldn't do a lot of things I wanted to do, ministry things. I had to trust Him in that. We live in seasons, and as much as we don't like to, we have to wait with respect to some things. He will establish His will at the right time. The month my daughter graduated from our homeschool, a whole new life opened up for me that I could have never anticipated. I had waited all these years to write full time, and the Lord was like, I got something else for you. Homeschool mama, as you school those kids day to day, look to the Lord. Every day is an opportunity for you to cling to Him, talk to Him, gain your strength from Him. Be real with Him about your frustrations. Seek Him about each of your kids and what they need. It's not about your ability or inability to homeschool. It's about the Lord who is able to show Himself strong and prove Himself faithful. God bless you on your journey. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and comment. If you have not already, I would love for you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you will know when I upload a new video. I will see you in the next one. Meanwhile, keep clinging.